Slowly but surely, we are getting into the holiday season. They are quickly approaching. They will be here before we know it. And so I wanted to use this opportunity to get ahead of it a little bit and talk about how to navigate that loneliness at the table, whether literally or figuratively, and just acknowledge how badly we might be missing someone that we love. Whether that is through a death, maybe we lost a loved one in this past year, maybe it's a divorce, the ending of a relationship, the ending of a friendship, right? There's a lot of different ways this can show up that might affect our holiday season. But I wanted to acknowledge this, number one, because it is freaking hard, but also to just encourage you to go into this season with a little more gentleness with yourself and with the process as we all navigate this, because the holidays have a way of magnifying everything, right? Welcome to Morning Sips and Soul Shifts. Welcome back to Morning Sips and Soul Shifts on the Life with Grief podcast and your cozy space that we have here together where you can curl up with your favorite beverage or at least do that in spirit from wherever you're tuning in from, and where we can just walk this path together vulnerably, openly, and just navigate this feeling a little bit less alone. Slowly but surely, we are getting into the holiday season. They are quickly approaching. They will be here before we know it. And so I wanted to use this opportunity to get ahead of it a little bit and talk about how to navigate that loneliness at the table, whether literally or figuratively, and just acknowledge how badly we might be missing someone that we love. Whether that is through a death, maybe we lost a loved one in this past year, maybe it's a divorce, the ending of a relationship, the ending of a friendship, right? There's a lot of different ways this can show up that might affect our holiday season. But I wanted to acknowledge this, number one, because it is freaking hard, but also to just encourage you to go into this season with a little more gentleness with yourself and with the process as we all navigate this, because the holidays have a way of magnifying everything, right? Our joy, our gratitude, but also perhaps our pain and our anguish and our loneliness, right? And maybe for you, it's the first holiday season without your person, whoever that is for you. Or maybe you're like me and it's been years, but that empty chair still hits you like it's brand spanking new. And that moment when, everyone's passing dishes and laughing and telling stories, and your mind or your eyes literally land on that place where that space should be filled but isn't, that's loud. That is heavy. And that is an ache and a void that sits in your throat and in your chest and might make us want to cry and all the things all at once. And I will tell you right now, my holiday seasons have definitely evolved since my parents died. If you are newer here, my mom died in December of 2019. So, right before the holiday season, she died on December 9th. Holidays may as well have just not even existed that year. We just didn't really care. My dad and I think I went to my then boyfriend, now husband's house with his family. I was kind of just a shell of a person at the time. But the following year, my dad was gone too because he died 6 months later in July of 2020. And again, kind of numb, kind of a shell, sort of in disbelief that that was even my holidays, that that's what my holiday season even looked like. And once again, I was with my boyfriend, fiance, whatever he was to me at that point. I can't even remember now. But I was with his family. I've been with his family every year. I wish I could see my own family on my mom and my dad's side. They all live on the East Coast of the US. Unfortunately, we don't live close, so it's not as easy to get there. And it's been beautiful. And I enjoy my holiday season very much. I'm grateful that I married into a family who loves Christmas, loves the holidays, and I have a lot of fun and it's very joyful, but my holidays have never felt certainly not the same. It doesn't, if I'm being so honest, have quite the same magic that it once did. I get very reminiscent of my childhood when I think about that and holidays with my parents and all the things. And this has only continued to evolve now that I've become a parent myself. So this will be my second Christmas with our daughter. She will be almost 2. She turns 2 in January. And some of that magic has come back, and because I wanna make it special for her, I want to make sure she remembers her grandma and grandpa that are no longer here. She's a little young still, but it's just a testament to the fact that life continues on, right? We don't have to be happy that they're not here, and we don't have to be happy that life goes on, and it seems like everyone around us is kind of just moved on when we're still feeling kind of stuck. But just goes to show you that each year can look so different. Some years it has hit me harder than others for some inexplicable reason. And now I have to say, as lovely and heartwarming as it is having my daughter on top of it, my parents' absences are even louder in some ways because they can't share that with her. That same magic that I felt in my childhood, that I had always looked forward to my parents having and being able to help impart on any kids that I had, is gone. Never to have the opportunity even once. And that stings. That is not something I will ever sort of get over. And I don't force myself. I know I'm never going to feel okay about that. I'm always going to mourn that in some ways. It just, softens with time, I guess, like anything else. But all that to say, I just want you to know whatever this looks like for you, you are not alone in navigating this. And like I said, it looks and feels different. You kind of don't always know how it's going to affect you. So, that all being said, if you have ever felt this ache and thought, shouldn't this feel easier by now? Or why can't I just enjoy this like everyone else seems to be? Whatever thought you have going around in your head, I want you to know your love for that person still lives deeply inside of you, whether they are alive or dead, right? We still might have some complicated feelings around someone who is still alive and well, but just not with us as they always have been. So I just want to acknowledge both ends of that spectrum, but to just say, if that love is still there, of course it hurts. And especially for those of us that have lost a loved one, they have died, they cannot be here physically anymore. That bond, that tether, it's never going to go away. So, yes, it could and probably will always hurt, at least a little bit, right? So, let's just quickly talk about the reality of that loneliness during the holiday season, because it is by far one of the most common, but sometimes least talked about parts of grief, I think. I think a lot of people assume that the holiday season can be rough or rougher than other times of year. It just, again, the absence, it's kind of deafening. But I think the holiday season is also really important to acknowledge because there's always this expectation that you have to be joyful and merry and bright. I mean, just think about the marketing, think about all of that messaging that we are inundated with on a daily and weekly basis. And I just want to set that expectation that, and because I've been there myself, again, with my husband's family, even if you are surrounded by people, family, friends, community, whatever, that are wonderful or maybe do a pretty good job of bringing you out of it a little bit, there can still be a deep loneliness that only your person or people, if you're like me and missing more than one, can fill. And there's this contrast of, all the noise around us versus what we're carrying inside of us, which can just be so weirdly quiet but loud at the same time. It's kind of hard to describe. And if you know grief, I think you know where I'm trying to go with this. But there's this feeling of others carrying on, sometimes completely unaware of the storm that is happening inside of us. How, and I really feel this. This is why I'm bringing this up. Maybe you can empathize, but how traditions can feel both very comforting and nostalgic, but also unbearable at the same time in a way. And it's hard to make sense of that balance, that dichotomy sometimes. And it just becomes this emotional battlefield between wanting to honor your person and also kind of wanting to escape the heaviness of missing them. And that is so common and that is so normal. I have definitely been there where, outwardly I'm like I'm smiling, I'm trying to smile, I'm trying to be upbeat and happy because I don't want to be a downer and bring other people down, but like inside you just might not even want to be there. You just want to like be alone on your couch or burst into tears or whatever. You might feel kind of stuck between the gratitude that you want to feel and perhaps that you do feel, but just this ache that doesn't go away, or at least not easily, right? It's not a switch we can just hit and it goes off. So, if that is where you find yourself this season, please know there is no right way to quote do the holidays. I'm going to have some more holiday episodes coming up here too. You're going to hear me say this more than once, but I feel like grievers just really need this reminder. There is no rule book for how you should feel, when you should feel it. You could be really excited about going to a particular event or whatever one day, and then you might get there or it's the day of, and you're like, I want to be doing literally anything else right now. So again, it's just that throwing out of the rule book for how you should feel, when you should feel it, and what you should be able to handle. And just remember that you are doing your best. And we have to gently challenge ourselves to do our best here a little bit, but we also have to know when to set boundaries and when to protect our peace. But I want to remind you, you are allowed to both love the season and think it's magical and wonderful and all the things, as I do. I do love the holiday season, but you are also allowed to dread it. You are allowed to both show up and step away. You are allowed to miss them so deeply that it still surprises you. If you walk away with nothing else today, please let it be that message. You are allowed to miss them so deeply during the holiday season and outside of the holiday season that it still surprises you. So, with that being said, let's quickly talk about some ways to just make this overall experience more gentle. And again, this can really apply to other times of year as well. But one thing I love to do is just creating a quiet moment of acknowledgement before any type of gathering or a place where you feel like you might have to be on, quote unquote, a little bit. So, I have felt this way before. I'm getting more comfortable with it. I feel like I don't have to be, I don't know, as performative. Not that I was ever performative, but there was just some holidays where I was around people and they were all in such a good mood and whatever. And there was like this part of me that I was throwing such a pity party. I was like, well, you guys are so happy. Of course, you're all happy and laughing and joyful. You all have each other still. You haven't lost the people that I have, or if they did, they weren't as close to their parents as I was, and lots of nitty-gritty details I won't get into here. But I struggled with that. I struggled with that a lot. And this practice really just helped ground me because I think there's only so much we can do in these moments short of, taking deep breaths and being really present, looking around us, just acknowledging the things that we can enjoy in the moment, the things that we can and should be grateful for. Not that, we just need to slap a gratitude sticker on everything and call it a day. I say that all the time. But one thing that has definitely helped me to get me into a good mindset going into some of these holiday gatherings is to, again, just have that kind of moment of acknowledgement, right? So, for example, before a dinner or a celebration, whatever, begins, take a few minutes for yourself if you can. Maybe that's lighting a candle. Maybe it's saying a prayer, saying their name, whether to yourself or out loud. Just say a little something. Bring them in. So I'm talking clearly more people who have died at this point, but bring them closer to you. Take a breath with your hand on your heart and let yourself feel that grief privately before you step into any sort of crowd. And I love this because it's a way of grounding yourself and making space for them and for you. And frankly, if you feel confident doing this, consider acknowledging the loss to people around you as well, right? Just be honest about it. I do talk about grief and loss a lot, so I think that has also helped flex my confidence muscle a little bit more than usual, but people have really appreciated that honesty in the right setting, right? And there have been other losses in my family, my husband's family, since I lost my parents as well. And it's nice that we can all feel a little bit comforted in having that outlet in each other. And I think when we can really step into our grief and own it, that is what is going to continue helping our society get more comfortable with it. Maybe you are a conduit to helping make that happen. Maybe you'll be at a gathering where everyone there, or almost everyone, knew the person that died, right? Maybe it's a grandparent, maybe it is a parent, maybe it's a sibling, a child, whatever. Maybe you're the one who suggests a way to honor them, and maybe you take the lead on that when you've never done that, or you might not be comfortable doing that. But who knows? Maybe you are giving someone else there such relief by bringing it up. Maybe you are giving someone else permission to feel their grief who so badly needs to be feeling it. So it makes them and everyone around you more comfortable too. Because the thing that's going to make us all feel the most uncomfortable in our grief is the not talking about it, not unacknowledging it more, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? A lot of people think that talking about grief is uncomfortable. It makes it more uncomfortable. No, no, no. The more we talk about it, the more comfortable we get. Period. All right. Number 2 on my list here is redefine what presence means to you. So even though their physical seat at a literal dinner table, for example, might be empty, their presence has not left you. Again, we're talking loved one that has passed here, I would say, but maybe you honor them through a favorite dish, a toast, a photo, or just, a few whispered moments where you take some breaths, like I was alluding to earlier, and say, I miss you. I love you. I wish you were here. I wish I could feel better about this in the moment. I don't right now, but I just want to say, I miss you so much. And just own that and sit with that for a few minutes, because sometimes the most meaningful moments are those quiet ones that no one else even sees. Number 3, have an exit plan. I've talked about this before. You will hear me say it again. I'll keep this short. If you're going to a holiday gathering, give yourself permission to leave early or take breaks, step outside, have an excuse of some kind. I don't condone lying or even white lying or anything, but listen, sometimes you guys, we gotta just do what we gotta do to survive this thing, okay? So go sit in your car for a few minutes if you have to. You don't owe anyone an explanation for taking care of yourself and your heart. You might feel like you do. I get it, right? Sometimes it's awkward to just like randomly step out and they might be like, oh, where are they? And, make a big deal of it. But like, it doesn't have to be a big deal unless we make it one. And if you do maybe have just one person that's kind of your confidant for that day that you can go to for emotional support, or at least communicate with that person if you do need to take a beat so they can kind of be like, oh yeah, they stepped out really quick, just went take a call, whatever, downplay it, whatever they got to do. Highly recommend. Buddy systems are great for things like this. All right, number 4, my last thing here. Choosing gentleness over performance. Kind of alluded to this earlier, but just to remind you, you do not have to smile through it all or force cheerfulness. You can be real make this the year that you are just real and authentically yourself and just owning your grief for what it is. You can let your emotions exist at the table. They have a place there, or they should, in my opinion. And sometimes honesty is the most honoring thing that we can bring to a space like that. Maybe this year for you is about not pretending it doesn't hurt, but also not letting that hurt be the only thing you feel. It's a really important distinction there, right? Because I think sometimes we can get really in our heads, we can wallow, we can be so stuck on who or what we no longer have. That's okay. But remember to allow the joy and the magic and the merriment of the season to come into naturally as it does, as it is meant to. And maybe it's even about finding those small flickers of peace, even if they are surrounded by tears. And I just want to normalize that, right? We can feel those things in the same moment. I often do. Remember that those emotions and that duality can and does coexist. And if it feels like you're jumping from one emotion one moment to a complete opposite one the next, that's okay. I want to normalize that. Let's let all of it in and just sit with it and try and make sense of it. I know it doesn't always make sense sometimes. I know it can be exhausting. I know it can give us whiplash. So to close this out, I just want to remind you that if your dinner table, figuratively or literally, feels a little more lonely this year, please know that, especially for those of us who have been on this grief journey, this path for several years, and we might feel some shame or thoughts thinking that we should be better by now or whatever, if those thoughts even enter into your head, please know it doesn't mean you're moving backwards. As with anything in grief, it'll continue to evolve over time because that's what it does. And some years, even down the line, might feel harder, and we can't always explain why. But it's okay. There doesn't always have to be a why. That is one of my biggest learnings in this grieving experience so far. There's a lot of it that does not make sense, but I've found some peace there because I'm no longer racking my brain trying to figure it out. But either way, it is a reflection of the love that is still very much alive inside of you. So let that love be what fills the space where words or your people no longer can. And be gentle with yourself this season. Sit where you need to, cry if you need to, step away if you need to. Remember, because I've said this multiple times now, you are not alone, because myself and so many grievers around the world and in this community are navigating this too. Because every person who has lost someone has felt that same ache in their chest when they look at an empty chair or the gathering feels just like there is something missing and you are sitting at a much bigger table than you realize. Thank you so much for joining me in this episode. And remember that I have free resources that are just some quick downloadable tools to help you further navigate life with grief and all it has to throw at you if you need it. Other resources I offer are linked in the show notes as well. And if this episode hit home for you, I would so appreciate you sharing it with your community or someone else who might need to hear it too. I'll see you in the next episode.